Hello and welcome to another Christ Church weekly video. Today I would like to examine the word meekness. Our men's group is currently studying the book of James by Vince Miller. He references James chapter 3 verse 13 on page 65 with the subtitle, quote, "The meekness of wisdom," end quote. But before we begin to examine meekness, let's ask a couple of personal questions. Number one, do you consider meekness and wisdom to be words you would generally fit together? God does. Number two, how would you identify yourself? Do you feel you are meek? And number three, in your opinion, what type of character is a meek person? And the last one, number four, does a meek person seem stronger to you? Well, this past Sunday, Pastor Tim's sermon came from 1 Corinthians chapter 12. And part of chapter 12, the Bible references our body with many different parts. And all the parts are necessary for the body to work completely. I found that some of my parts, the heart and the brain, oftentimes don't work the way I would prefer them to. For example, my mind or my heart can easily choose to follow God's guidance by reading the scripture, attending church, prayer, or to follow a path of destruction called sin, and forget the rest of those things that I just mentioned. We can sometimes hide those thoughts, but we can never hide them from God. When our focus is on our self-interest, our self-will, we fail to follow God's still small voice. In fact, we can't even hear it. Then, unfortunately, our true thoughts or personalities are sometimes released for all to hear through that one tiny part of our body, the tongue. In our society, we tend to identify people with a particular type of personality. Some refer to me as Igor. Not sure why. Did you know that there are 16 different personality types? The most common or major personalities are identified as A, B, C, D, and E. Webster identifies meekness as submissiveness, but God doesn't. In the scripture, it identifies them as not being self-willed or concerned with themselves, but instead with the needs of others. Does that change your mind about how you think about meekness? Did you change your mind to consider the fact that a person who is meek is stronger than you realize? James 3:13, as we mentioned earlier, says the following, quote, "Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him or her show their works in the meekness of wisdom." Consider patience this week and holding our tongues so that we don't harm others by desiring our own ways. Till next week, God bless.